Hi guys, this is Bison, your host, and in this position, you have to find the best possible continuation, or we can say that you have to find the winning move for white. Here you can see that white queen is on a2 square, rook is on b1 square, and this king is on e1, whereas black king is in h1, and both the queen and the rook are present in the 8th rank. So, as of white, what will you play in this position? I just want you all to pause the video and try to solve this by yourself. Here, let's consider all the possible moves which white can play in this position. Suppose if white decides to exchange the queens, now the only move for black is to capture this queen, and suppose if white decides to bring his king to f2, trying to give a discover check, and you can see that the only square left for this king is simply on h2. But what next? Here, mostly people will play rook to b6. Now you can see that white is threatening to mate black from h6 square, but this is of no use because black have multiple options to stop this. Suppose let's consider rook to h8, which simply stops the move rook to h6, and also black can give multiple checks like rook to f8 and keep checking this king, and you can see that here no side can progress, and this will become completely equal. Okay, so let's go back to our original position, and suppose so here another move which comes in our mind is simply moving our king to e2 square, giving a discover check to black, and obviously black can't defend this check with the rook, otherwise white will grab the queen. So that's why the only possible square left for this king is on h2. Now what next? Obviously exchanging the queens lead to a draw, so that's why we have to think something different. Here the another possibility which comes in our mind is we can simply move our queen to f7. Threatening to play this queen to h5 check, but guys, this is actually losing for white because now black will firstly give a check from e4 square, which also targets the b1 rook, and if this king goes to f2, then black will give a check from his rook, and wherever this king goes into the 8th rank, you can see that black will checkmate white. So you can see that that's also not working. So let's go back to our original position, and suppose if we decide to bring our king to d2, and let's see what will happen. Here black will simply bring his king to h2, and the same story which I mentioned earlier that I told you, and you can see that that's also not working. So let's go back. So here the final move left in this position is king to f2, a discover check by the rook, and you can see that now the safest option for the black king is to h2. But what next? Because obviously white can't play queen to f7, because then black will pin his queen by the rook to f8, and white is losing. So let me help you out. Okay, so here you can see that if we have to mate black, then we have to bring our queen somehow in this g file, and you can see that there is no way we can do this, because if we tries to give a discover check again, then suppose if we go there, then black will simply grab our queen. So the only way to do this is to sacrifice our rook by rook to h1, and here black have two options. Suppose if black captured this rook with the king, now this is over for black, because now white will give a check from his queen, and if black blocks it with the rook, then simply queen takes g1 will be a checkmate. So that's why after rook to h1, The only possible move left for black is to grab this with the rook. But what next now? That is simple, simply queen takes g8. We grabbed this rook because firstly we placed our queen to this g file, which is our main motive, and secondly you can see that this black queen is now useless because it cannot give us checks now. So that's why this is completely winning, because suppose if queen goes to e4 trying to guard this, but this cannot be guarded because now white will simply give a check from h8 square. And yeah, there are multiple ways, like white can give a check from this g3 square, and this is mate. Yeah, so okay, so after queen to h8 check, there are multiple ways to checkmate, which I mentioned you earlier, but we choose this. And here you can see that the only way to defend this is queen to h4, and finally we will mate black. Let me know in the comment that how many of you finds the sequence. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.